It's like everything, it's always cycled, isn't it?
Yeah.
It always goes in cycles, you know. But the fact is, for all these fashion terms and all this lot, heavy metal and rockers and whatever you want to call them, have been there all the way through it.
What's going on, everybody? It's Tom.
And it's Jamie. Welcome to the Chronicles of Podcast.
The Chronicles of Bloodstock 2024.
The world of 2024 is a very different place, especially when you look back and compare it to 2007, when Sophie's attack happened and she lost her life simply for having the courage to leave her house, being who she wanted to be and to express herself.
A 15-year-old boy has been accused of kicking a woman to death because she was dressed as a goth.
2024 is so different on many different ways. It's different in culture, it's different in society, it's different in the things we will accept out in the world. So this year we return to Bloodstock, a place that is a safe haven for us in the alternative community, to simply ask that question: is it getting better?
People still get singled out just for being a little bit different.
Yeah.
Like, it's not as easy as just dressing normally. Like, if you get called names just because you want to express yourself that certain way, you can't just like turn that off because that's how you feel and that's what you want to look like. That's how you want to dress. And then people just being horrible to you for the simply how you want to look is wrong. So there's still a lot more work to do.
Before we could find out if it is in fact getting better, we wanted to find out about some of the stereotypes that people may have had placed upon them simply because they are part of this heavy metal community.
I think certainly it's that kind of, there's always this kind of stereotype about hatred and anger and Satanism that exists in the metal community. This is what you hear. So it's like, oh, you listen to angry music, you must be really full of hate, you must really hate these things. And it's weird because obviously you talk to metal fans, you talk to metal bands, they are the nicest, kindest, most humanitarian people you'll ever meet. You know, whether you're reading an interview with Cannibal Corpse and you see Corpse Grinder holding a puppy, you know, they're just incredibly lovely people. And, you know, the music, the art is, you know, absolutely separated from the people. It's really weird because it's the same with like horror movies. If you like ever read interviews with like the people who make horror movies, they're so proud and so delighted of the work they do, but they get tarred with this brush. You know, you must be violent, you must really hate people, you must be a misanthrope. And I think that stigma it still attaches to the metal community, and I've never really understood why. Because you spend even 5 minutes talking to someone wearing a black metal t-shirt, you'll find that they're just really nice people.
One of the worst things that I've seen is where you see somebody who's dressed like us and they've got a kid with them, and somebody across the road looks over and assumes that the person is just not looking after their kid.
That's
a really good point.
Yeah.
No one's ever mentioned that.
No, it's like that goes on and it doesn't get mentioned, so I'm gonna...
Yeah,
you're absolutely right.
Funnily enough, I wrote my dissertation. I did songwriting at uni, and I wrote my dissertation on like Satanism within metal, and like how like the idea of people being sort of judged for the way, you know, being like, oh, these guys are Satanists, these are evil, these guys go to hell. Like these hardcore Christians look at sort of anyone dressed in all black with some tattoos as, you know, a bad person. So it's like, it's really close to our hearts, you know. Like, I mean, both of us were bullied at school for being different, and I mean, they didn't know I was ginger and fat, so I mean that goes towards it. But I mean, we've, you know,
I've always had the stereotype, you know, I'm tall and German, so in school people always call me, you know, the Nazi and stuff like that, you know. But
that's lovely of them.
So we've had our fair share, but
exactly,
I mean, the sort of like more like the Grebo one, you know, like first classic up north we get Grebo like for like a goth kid, like, you know, and so like, yeah, all the abuse, we've had it, it's shit, people need to get over themselves. Like,
I got called that so many times when I was younger, and still, now at 38 years of age, I've no idea what a Grebo is. What does that word even mean? I've literally no idea.
I think it's supposed to mean like sweaty and like, yeah, I don't know. It's just supposed to mean a sweaty goth kid, I think.
It's a very odd
word. It's very weird. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, taking any of the meaning away from it, it's got quite a ring to it.
I quite like it.
I like it as a word, but I don't like the meaning. Like, fuck off, man. You know.
No, a lot of people are surprised to learn that you listen to other kinds of music other than heavy metal.
Oh yeah.
You know, we're just people. It's not our whole entire lives, you know. So yeah, I know all the music from the pop music from the 2000s. That's when I was growing up. I was listening to the radio like everybody else. You know, it's not just 100% metal.
Plus, even if you listen to metal, we can all agree the Backstreet Boys had some fucking bangers.
Bangers.
They're so. I don't care how extreme you like your metal. We all love a bit of Backstreet Boys.
Right now, you can hear that.
For me personally, as a kid, I was a little skinny greaser. Yes, I was skinny at one time in my life.
I have not said.
I was.
I picked up on
How very dare you? But no, I was the guy with the, I was the guy with the cut off. Because that's what they're called. They're not called battle jackets. All right, we'll get that out there. It's not a cut off. But I was a kid with long hair at school with a Black Sabbath, back patch and all that lot. But then further down the line, I was the big fat balding guy that looked like someone out of the EDL, and I'm not in the EDL. And I hate people from the EDL. So yes, stereotypes. I've had it all my life. It doesn't matter whether I've got hair or not.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything. See how complimentary it was. To be fair, we were all. I was the grunge kid with the undercut, the para boots, and the check shirts, listening to Nirvana and Pearl Jam. I mean, and it wasn't a trendy thing. All the girls in my school were the pristine, gorgeous girls, and I just wasn't like that. And it was the goths. We were the grebos of the school. That was used as a hateful term.
One of the things we always really appreciate when we speak to the artists and performers at Bloodstock is when they actually just open up and tell us examples of times they've been treated differently simply for being part of this community.
Last week when we were getting ready and we were practicing, preparing for this, Aaron encountered these two muscle-bound buffoons who basically didn't... Just tell. What did they say?
Well, I was walking down off the train, and these two fucking guys are walking down, and they're like, "Alright, man, alright." And I went, "Oh, okay." I mean, yeah, get skateboarding, you dirty bastard. I was like, "What? What?" I mean, that was funny, but still, weird.
So the moral of the story is, it doesn't matter if you're opening Bloodstock. To some people, you're always just going to be a scruffy grunger dickhead, But guess what? We're all here together. There's
we are.
Camaraderie, there's brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever the fuck other hoods, up the hoods, right?
Up the
hoods. We're all here together with our hoods up.
I still see it. I was walking past the Curzon Cinema in Eastbourne the other day, and I saw some chavs beating up some emos, and I was like, "No!" Yeah.
Especially because as a teenager, you haven't got the confidence to do it. You're a lot more vulnerable.
Yeah. I sort of thought you just "Don't fuck with me. I am Chench."
Yeah. Hey, that's the goal. That's the goal for everyone. You want to be fucking Chench.
Rocking the swole dad board on the
Yeah. I mean, look, because of the rise of TikTok and stuff, there's always going to be little kids still going up to you and being like, "'Cause tonight will be the night that I will fall for you," making emo jokes and all that kind of stuff.
I love Sucker That
Yeah, I know, that's a great fucking song. But at the end of the day, you guys, we've had that all our lives and everything, and it's kind of water off a duck's back, really.
I remember one time I got attacked by some chavs, and we were drunk, so we started. Do you remember? We started using
Hadouken!
Just sprint up this guy and Hadoukens him. We don't recommend that you do that.
No.
Even if you get the input just right, it doesn't work.
I remember once I was taking the dogs out, and a van drove past of blokes and hurled horrible abuse at me, and I must have looked ridiculous. I had about 3 dogs that wouldn't behave. I was just like,
and then I parked the van up and went in.
Yeah, I'm getting my comeback now. But yeah, so we faced it, and people just giving you shit for liking that kind of stuff. School was, I comparatively to other people, I didn't have that much of a rough ride, but people were dicks to me about it, and I think it still happens today, and it's something that I think should be eradicated. There's no need for it, and people should just be able to be who they want to be and live the life they want to live.
And look at you now.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Here we are. Yeah, because well, no, to be fair, I think someone should have bullied us out of Raised by Owls. Someone should have put a stop to this. Like my mum should have gone, no, lads.
The bullies are watching going, this has just proved my point.
I remember I got searched when I was 14 at a family festival. They were like, "You've got red hair, you look weird, you look like you do drugs, we're going to search you." I was like,
Were they right?
I'm 14. I'm just like.
That's the exact sort of bullshit we're talking
Yeah,
about. Like, yeah,
literally.
because you have coloured hair,
Yeah,
therefore you must
literally.
be on drugs.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah. So, about 14 years ago it must have been now. So I was out on a night out with my mate Dan, who's actually around here somewhere. And we're just like getting a pizza. End of our night. I was about a bottle of JD in at that point, which I think helped in hindsight. And there was these couple of lads just being really unpleasant to my mate because he's a bit alternative, long hair, glasses, black. I'm wearing black, beard and that. And they were making fun of him, and I was like, look, leave him alone. And I was like, look, leave it. And then they got a bit like uppity, and I was like, look, just leave, go outside, leave us alone, go outside. And then they wouldn't have it. And as soon as I looked away, they just hit me. They sucker punched me and they stamped on my head.
Holy shit!
And it broke all of my jaw open, like all of it. It's broken there. I was 7-month recovery after surgery. I had facial reconstruction and everything like that. But I was lucky to walk away with just that. But this is the best story. Now you can feel less sorry for me now. While I was very drugged up in the hospital and drunk, sitting there, I never got my pizza. So do you know what the nurses thought it was a good idea? To get pizza for their lunch and their dinner. And I'm there, sitting there, hungover on JD, sore as anything, starving, while they're eating pizza in front of me. I thought there is no God. There is no God. But the best part of this story, and I'll make you feel a bit better, is I vowed that I would do death metal vocals and I would learn how to do it properly afterwards, and here I am.
That's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
It wasn't an obstacle for me. It was an inspiration. I was like, nah, I'm doing it.
That's incredible.
We had one the other day. As you can see, our logo is sort of RLs with the T, and we got told you've got an upside down crucifix, so go to hell.
Oh, okay. How very Christian of them.
Yeah.
But no, man, like, I'll still get heckled in the streets, like, Grebo, you know what I mean? Like, you get it always. Like, I don't think it's something that unfortunately will ever be able to fully escape because there's a lot of small-minded people out there. But as long as we all stand up for each other and point out when people are making these like wrong comments and stuff, then that's all we can do, man. Like, just band together.
The way that I see it is that people can rip us and people can say stuff like that, but they're not fucking playing Bloodstock, are they?
No.
Absolutely.
But do you know what's mental? Do you know what's actually mental? So we played Mystic Festival in Poland, right? Not that long ago, and there was literally a group of people outside protesting the festival because they were like, "You're all Satanists. You're all going to hell, trying to preach Christianity." Yeah, and it's like insane. It's like, so it does still exist. Like, there's no doubt. I mean, we were all like little reprobates growing up, and
they were like the security went and took them like tea, coffee, water, everything because they hadn't had anything all day. Just kicked it all away and like, we're not having your devil coffee.
Yeah, it was mental. It was insane.
It's been roasted in hell.
Yeah. I mean, the festival was absolutely beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it was one of those where you just saw, it was so funny because it was just a bunch of metalheads all standing around looking at them, just being like, yeah, go on, keep protesting. Crazy.
I mean, yeah, survival of the fittest is kind of not a thing anymore, so you have those people that are just like existing and they're oblivious to what's going on in the world. So
It's a bit like, why do you care so much?
I guess the goal is to not let that guy close to you and be like, just do your own fucking thing, and like, if you know what you're doing, nobody else is gonna believe in you other than yourself.
Absolutely.
Like, just nobody believes in you other than yourself. If you stop believing in yourself, you manifest that shit anyway, and then you start learning to not give a fuck about the idiots.
Absolutely. I think it is that. It's having that courage to just be yourself. Absolutely, completely agree.
I can speak to that as well. I used to have dreadlocks down to my waist. There's a fair few assumptions that come along with that one as well. Definitely been asked for less drugs at this festival than other ones. So there you go.
Wow, that's definitely an assumption. Yes.
I had a kind of customer party at work a couple of weeks ago, and they were very, very upper middle class people, and they didn't really know what to make of me. They were kind of like, one guy was like, "So what's with the tattoos?" And I was like, how do I answer that? What's with them? Well, they're here now. I can't really do much about it. To explain the tattoos or your entire identity, so some like drunk middle class like white dude is so. I was like, mate, just take your drink and go. I was like, there's no point.
The best one is the ones that come in and are like, oh yeah, I listened to AC/DC once. I would go. It's just not my scene. I just don't think I could do it. It's just a bit too. Yeah, I just don't think I could do 3 days without a washing machine.
The riffs are great, but the vocals just a bit harsh for me.
I just want an aria now.
I always say, I like the music, but I just can't hack the squeeze.
How do you even know what they're saying?
That's my favourite
How
one.
do you even read those logos? I can't. Is it Metallica? I can't even read it. Is it Forest? I don't know. What?
I actually had a Christian come up to me because of the symbols on the helmet on my way to Harwich, and tried to like talk to me about like the symbolism on my helmet, and I managed to like say, you know, it's just for a good cause and things like that, and I ended up bringing him around. But yeah, you still get a little bit of you know, leering and jeering at you occasionally, but it's a lot less frequent now than it was when I was younger. You sort of get like called the weirdo all the time, and it's like, oh, why didn't you just like wear a colour or something? It's not so bad for guys, but I used to see it really bad with my female friends who used to like dress like Sophie and have like their colourful dreads and things and wear black. And it really, when I found out what the Sophie Lancaster Foundation do and who Sophie Lancaster was, I was like, well, it's like really easy choice to like support them. So when I did it last year, I wasn't raising any money. But this year it was just like, because everyone was asking me, are you sponsoring, being sponsored for this? Who are you raising money for? And I was like, well, at that time I wasn't. So I was like, well, I've got to do it for the Sophie Lancaster Foundation. And that really ties in easily with the helmet, because when people ask me what's about the helmet and I tell them about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, it's like, well, this is how I'm expressing myself in my own unique way, and that's how Sophie did it. So this really ties in easily. So I was like, well, thank you, Rory, for making this a good idea, because now I've got a really good reason to say, you know, the helmet ties in with what I'm doing.
That's incredible. Fuck, I still remember when I was getting into like Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff when I was a kid, and like I was getting told by people in church like, oh, put those demon things away and all that kind of bollocks. So Yu-Gi-Oh? Yes, Yu-Gi-Oh. Demon in Yu-Gi-Oh. There were people at my church who thought there were demons in Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Yes. Okay, just checking I heard that right. But yeah, I think it like I said, I think it varies depending on where we are.
Yeah, I've been quite lucky myself. Usually it's just things like, if I did like this, it's like, it's usually just getting like homophobic slurs from a car, you know, like brave people shouting at you from a moving vehicle, you know, that type of vibe. Like real, like gentlemanly, classy people. But I'm used to moving things like away from me. But yeah, but I've been quite lucky myself. But I have known a few people growing up who've been physically assorted for like dressing metal and stuff like that. So yeah, I've been around that, and I fucking hate it. Like anyone who does that, like, fuck you.
Absolutely.
Pretty much.
It's like you're saying you've known people that have gone through it, but sometimes it's not just going through it, it's the fear of it happening. There's that. Yeah. I know this happens to people.
Yeah.
Looking over your shoulder, you know,
that could happen to anyone and everyone. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So there's twofold with that. So out in the normal world where there's from someone who's not gothic at all, or whatever at all, they'll see someone just dressed in black and they'll think, oh, I'm gonna go the other way. This is demonic. Yeah. They got, you know, they're putting the evil eye on me. I don't know. Like, and we all know that that's rather absurd. You know, wearing a T-shirt that's black, or wearing a little bit of makeup, or having a bunch of tattoos. Honestly, I'll tell you this: the most warm and welcoming people I've ever met usually are the ones that have tattoos, that are wearing dark makeup, that have black clothing. And here's why: they've seen some things out in the world. They've overcome a lot of those things, and in a very kind of almost warrior-like fashion, we wear the things that we have defeated as a badge. The darkness that we have overcome, you wear as your tattoos. Yes. Almost like a bear, like you've defeated, and then you're like, this is my skin now. Yes. And so all these demons that we've come across, we wear them as our armor to protect us from the really frightening things, which are just people's ignorance out in the world now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
Now, when it comes to the other aspect, you know, the one that's a little bit less severe, one that's a little bit more superficial are, you know, sometimes there will be people that, well, I only like this kind of music. I don't like what's this guy's got a little bit too much makeup on. You know, I'm not, you know, so that is a little bit, that can be overcome very easily. I think people who have maybe a little bit of they have what they like and they're not very open to other things, I think if they come out and they experience things and they only like a certain subgenre of music, maybe a little gatekeepery, all it takes is a few moments of enjoyability, and that'll open them up to say, you know what, that was all right. That was all right. Yeah.
Actually, probably, yeah. Like, obviously, we're up against it to a degree anyway, because we're an all-female band, so we still get derogatory comments and stuff like that. But to be honest, it's water off a duck's back at this point. But it shouldn't have to be. Like, people should just keep their fucking mouth shut. Do you know what I mean? But like, unfortunately, yeah, we do face it. And probably even in, like, we're in quite sort of male-dominated industries in what we work in. So I think it probably carries across to work as well. But like, yeah, I think obviously it gives you a bit of a thicker skin, unfortunately, like if you're subjected to it probably more than others. But
I was going to say, we don't really register it at the moment, I think, because of the things that you go through in school, where you're just like constantly subjected to little side remarks. I think I got away with it quite lightly, although there was a little bit of like, oh, you're fucking emo or whatever it is. But yeah, nothing compared to a lot of my friends who might have, you know, suffered a little bit more with it. But you, like Sam says, you build up such a thick skin.
Yeah.
But you should always just take stock of like, no, this isn't right, and to be treated different just because of the way you look or the music that you like, whatever it is. It's still very prevalent, I would say. And you take it for granted coming to a festival like this because everybody around you is the same, and you're like, no, we're accepted, but it'll only take me to go back to work on Monday, and it's a complete, and you have to put on a totally different skin.
Absolutely.
To be accepted.
It's one of those things, like you were saying, a statement we've heard quite a lot of, it's part of the territory. Why the fuck is it part of the territory?
Yeah, why?
But unfortunately, if you're anything that's slightly different, it doesn't matter what it is, does it? Anything that's not the norm.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
But it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look, if I'm going to get my girlfriend a pair of earrings for Christmas, they look at me and they go, this guy doesn't have money. Wait on him last. Like, don't go to him. But what am I going to do? You know, I could shave the beard, cut the hair, wear a nice suit or something and go in the shop, but who wants to do that?
A point that was raised a lot over the weekend is the fact that the alternative community in regards of fashion and the way we dress and the way we present ourselves seems to be become quite popular and mainstream.
As well, I don't know if you guys have ever come across this, but you know, people that dress, I don't want to use the word normal, but you know, when people who dress just like, I don't know, like a white shirt, blue jeans, you know, the basic normal.
I know what you mean.
And you ask them what sort of music are you into, and so I like a bit of hip hop, pop, and I love heavy metal. They always like metal music, you know, regardless if that's a bit of screaming in there or whatever. Like I've worked with loads of like managers and stuff that have like in different industries that have like, you wouldn't ever think it, but they're into heavy metal. And you say like, oh, I'm in a band, and like, oh yeah, and you tell them, oh, we like this band and that band, and oh, you sound like them, do you? And, oh, great. A lot of people listen to metal. It's universal. So I think everything's a lot more accepted now, but it does definitely need to go in a bit more of the correct direction, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think the music itself is becoming a lot more accepted because, like you were saying, you got things like that. You got people like Bring Me the Horizon are doing these huge tours. You got people like Youngblood are putting their own festivals on and things like that now. But I think it is those people that like to express their originality and be themselves in public. I think that is where the work is still needed. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, though, like when we went to Download in 2009, we'd see like people like burn tents and go absolutely nuts. But I feel like the scene is a lot safer now for people to get in, and I think it's a bit more approachable. Yeah.
There's definitely like it's a lot more diverse. There's been a big upswing of like more women in bands, which is really fucking cool. And I was saying like, I mean like bands like Knocked Loose, like people like Billie Eilish are going to see them, and it's like you never expect like a fucking super heavy hardcore band to have like mainstream appeal.
Yeah,
but it is happening.
Gojira were at the Olympics.
Yeah,
exactly.
I feel like metal's more like it's still not mainstream, but it's more like accepted and known.
Yeah, it is bleeding in, like you're saying, like Gojira there, and I know they're more pop punky, but you had Paramore supporting Taylor Swift on the World Tour. Like that wouldn't have happened 10 years ago. Things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I think alternative stuff and metal and that stuff in general is just
exploded into popularity now, where it's just like a lot more accessible for everyone, and I think that's a fantastic thing because it means bullying hopefully will be a lot less common because of those things.
Absolutely.
I think TikTok also helped because like ghost songs, for example, get like just pop explode and stuff.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like fucking Stranger Things with Metallica.
True.
And
pop culture as well.
I think as well, like, you know, when I was in school, it was more alternative. If you had like tattoos and long hair, you'd be like, oh, this guy's into Slayer or whatever. But now you see somebody with tattoos and long hair, it's like it could just be like a bloke that works at a coffee shop and is into into Taylor Swift or something, you know. So I think that like appropriation of certain aspects that were like typically heavy metal, it's just more common now to see someone with long hair and tattoos, and that's great. That's a good thing.
It is great.
So I don't think, you don't get shouts of like, you know, cut your hair and stuff that you would have in the past. I don't think, but maybe it depends on where you are.
I do find a weird thing of like more like people who aren't in this community are more curious than they've ever been about this community.
Yes.
And they're more like, that's cool. What's going on there? Like, I've got some friends who are like as far disconnected from this community as you can possibly imagine, like totally different worlds. But they're always like, they see I'm doing the band and stuff, and they're like, oh, that's cool. Like this looks like a community vibe. So I think it's much more like curiosity and interest, rather than just pure sort of what's that, which it might have been back in the day a little bit.
Absolutely.
Alternative culture's become quite mainstream at the moment as well. Like, I always call it like the Billie Eilish effect. Like when she's started coming out with quite alternative clothing, alternative songs, it has really pushed that sort of narrative into like pop music at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Arctic Monkeys are going to do that, but but I think that has made maybe the metal community more accepted. But I think when you say is there still what to do, I do think there is. Yeah. I think it's not perfect, but it's getting better.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What I took from that is we have to blame Billie Eilish for Nirvana shirts being in Primark.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Guns N' Roses ones as well. You see them all the time. Like,
yeah.
If we were standing by the pit, I think it was during Whitechapel, and the amount of diversity coming over that wall was hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
It was hilarious because you got Brian from accounting coming over the wall 3 or 4 times. Like, honestly, he just.
I think I saw Paul from Grantham.
Yeah, exactly. Paul from Grantham was there. Yeah, exactly. But you know, and that's the beauty of this. It sort of pulls everyone together, and everyone's just singing and dancing, just having a great time, forgetting of the ills of the world. You know.
That's what the weekend's about, though, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To get older, I think it is all changing a bit. You know, with the likes of these bands that are so commercially successful now, you know, you're kind of more of an odd one out if you don't have any tattoos these days. So, yeah, it's nice to see that it's getting a bit more accepted, sort of wide spectrum.
Yeah, I think like the general alternative look is a bit more popular nowadays. You have people, you know, that don't listen to anything alternative wearing black jeans and leather jackets and whatnot. You know, the sort of gothy look is. You know, like the black eyeliners and stuff, it's kind of in the fashion now, so I think there's a little bit less of that. And I think people in general, like, you know, if you get like 10, 15 years ago, it was very much still a case where if you listen to death metal, you only listen to death metal and that's it, where nowadays I think people listen to more genres in general. So, you know, you listen to, I don't know, electric music as well, or hip hop, you know. With the emergence of bands like Sleep Token or Bad Omens and, you know, all them bands doing really, really well, that kind of tells you a lot about the trends, I think.
Absolutely. It's funny, you see people like you mentioned, like the alternative look being fashion. It's like, part of you's like, that's amazing, like we're part of the like main culture now, and another part of me like, I got the shit kicked out of me for this when I was younger. You absolute bastard.
Exactly.
Get out of Primark.
Exactly. As an elder goth, it is very much a thing, yes. Yeah.
It's a funny one. I've noticed compared to when we were growing up, the music that we were listening to and maybe even bullied or picked on for listening to that's in fashion now.
Yep.
It's kind of gone full circle.
Yeah.
Like, and I think there are certain musicians who are really kind of putting the alternative thing out there. It might not be everyone's cup of tea music wise, but people like Youngbloods, he's kind of like there's a bit of an alternative thing to him. Yeah. It's kind of making it a bit more accepted. I feel like the lines are a bit more blurred than when we were growing up with it. And yeah, that can only be a good thing, right?
It's kind of become fashion in a way. You know that shit we got bullied for in the past?
Yeah.
It's now adopted by the pop culture.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like pop stars look like rock stars, but it's fucking pop music. Do you know what I mean?
Nirvana
I mean,
t-shirts
I
in
appreciate
Primark,
that,
that's
though.
all I'm saying.
It's sick, man, because it's like like they can appreciate the looks and the energy is still the same. It's still ratty energy, right?
So let's ask the question: is it getting better? Is it easier to be a member of the alternative community in 2024?
It's getting easier, but I think there's more celebration of difference and variety.
Yeah. Diversity's more accepted now, and I think bullies are more frowned upon.
Yes.
At the same time, it's never going to be a walk in the park, is it? Like, no matter what you do, you can do work for the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, and you can go out and help hundreds of thousands of kids get an activity, get off the streets, get away from drugs. You can help people, and yet you're always going to piss someone off.
There's always going to be someone that envies another person's ability to show the inside on the outside, and I think we're all like that.
I find now as a society, everyone seems a bit more accepting of things. You'll always get those groups of people that will always, be racist or horrible about certain things, which is just unfortunate. But I think people are more accepting of things now, which is great. But yeah, there are still some prejudice every now and again, isn't there? Unfortunately, but it's got better, and we're going in the right direction. But it still needs to get better, doesn't it? I think we can all agree on that. Yeah.
Anyone growing up, you're going to face judgment and prejudice, but I think people are a lot more open-minded now, and for better or for worse, with the with how popular the internet and TikTok and everything is now. I think Sleep Token wouldn't be big now if it wasn't for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's there's so much out there now that people are so much more aware of because of social media. It's obviously it has its good and bad sides to it, but because of that, I feel like we are living in a more open-minded world, or especially in Europe, without saying anything else.
Certainly, it's more accessible. So, when we were coming through, it was still a little bit niche. It really was underground. You had to find the other guy in school who maybe wore band shirts and knew who Dark Funeral were, or some bloke who had a Mayhem tape, or even listen to Guns N' Roses or whatever. So I think it's easier to access more obscure music and alternative music now for kids. But I think the flip side of that is that I think maybe kids don't buy into the subculture in the same extent. So what you notice is there's less and less metalheads coming through, because I don't think they attach themselves to the identity in the same way that that we did, certainly. I don't think that's the case. I think you have a lot more, because younger people are consuming music differently nowadays. It's not part of their identity in the same way that it was for us when we were growing up. It's like, you're a metalhead, this is everything that you're about. Now I think you might just get people that are a little bit more transient maybe, and that's just due to how they consume music and I think the changing priority of music within their... It's not the soundtrack to your life anymore, I don't think.
Yeah.
For a lot of people. That's my opinion on it. But
danger's still there, though. I mean, I do think alternative women are more targeted than men.
Yes.
Men are more likely to get punched, where women are more likely to be targeted. So that's the reality is that we have to accept. And as men, I think we could probably do a lot more in regards of safeguard ourselves as well as our female friends. So you don't have to be partners with them. If you're friends with them, make sure they're safe.
Inclusiveness maybe on the left-hand side of politics is going further left, and inexclusiveness on the right-hand side of politics is going further right. So the spectrum's kind of widening in that way. So I guess certain people are perhaps even more open than they once were in a sense now than they've ever been. But maybe other people are even less tolerant of anything that's different to what they would consider to be normal. I don't know. There's definitely a sprog of young metalheads that have cropped up in Edinburgh recently, and they seem to all be quite confident, cool people.
Yeah. I think as well there's a lot of alt chic sort of things that are pretty acceptable now. There's so the bar that I work at, and on either side of us is a couple poppy normie kind of bars, and you see kids who are clearly you chat to them and they're what this Mayhem t-shirt, I don't know, I just found it sort of thing, do you know what I mean? Corpse paint and everything, and they're like, yeah, I'm here for like Bubblegum Tuesdays or whatever. And
I think it is easier now than it was in the 90s, for example, to find your own community. But I think also the problem is that a lot of these communities have almost, maybe out of self-defense, but they've become ring-fenced. So they actually sort of become more closed to outsiders, and that's where you then start to get that kind of intolerance, because where you've got people on the outside looking in, they're only going to see what they want to see, and they're going to interpret it through their own unique lens. And that's why it's really important to have some outreach and to have sort of discussions. There does need to be more of that. I think, whether we're talking about the metal community, or whether you're talking about politics, or whether you're talking about sport or whatever, discussion and finding common ground and common humanity is the most important thing. So in some ways, I think this wonderful metal community, it's here and it's possible, and you've got places like Bloodstock that prove that. But at the same time, there's still that issue with the people from the outside looking in. Oh, you're going to Bloodstock. Oh, that's going to be a weekend of violence and drugs and Satan. You sacrifice goats. I'm 40 and I still hear this from work colleagues. Oh, it must be a very angry place. I was like, no.
Please go back to work just covered in blood. Have a white lab coat on, just covered in that, holding a cross upside down or something. That'd be amazing.
I was going to go with the goat's head that I killed.
It's blood livestock.
No, I think it's getting easier for sure, and I think we're more accepting of, like, we'll say, when we were kids, there wasn't all these, there wasn't a spectrum of different mental conditions. I don't even like to call it illness, but like, you'll have people now, I think, they have sensory issues, or they have ADD, or whatever the current diagnosis might be. Whereas when we were kids, it was like, you're just like punk rock or heavy metal. You're a little different. You like Dungeons and Dragons. You like, you know what I mean? You dress up as a furry animal sometimes, and you go to a convention. It wasn't like, I know there's 90 different diagnoses, but I like to think of everybody having a touch of something.
I agree.
Right?
I completely agree. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think we all have these things that make us unique.
Yeah, so it's like, that's more accepting. It wasn't like you were just relegated to one area of society. Now you got 90 different cliques and communities you can join, and and I know a guy, if you touch cardboard near him, he'll have like a seizure. Like, he hates cardboard. So I'm like, all right, so you're not going to be a merch guy.
Yeah.
Right? But you're also not going to be locked away in an asylum. You gotta make it through life, and you gotta figure out what your lane is.
Absolutely.
Right?
Is cardboard that bad?
I mean, it's like nails on a chalkboard for him times 10.
Oh, yeah.
So if you scratch cardboard around him, it's not good. So, but I know people like that where, like my daughter, if I'm chewing a salad, she looks like she's gonna stab me. Are we gonna commit her? No. You know what I mean? What is it? And then they'll come up with some term. It's auditory sensitivity disorder or whatever, and it's like, well, maybe I'm chewing too loud. I don't know. But we deal with everybody with compassion.
Absolutely.
And say, hey, listen, it all goes away when you pump up some heavy music, right? It's
absolutely.
Some people, they're just different strokes for different folks, you know?
I definitely think it's really easier now because people start to respect, and even metal's coming up again from the underground as well. So it's starting to become more of a norm that people listen to other music than rap and pop and stuff, you know? So it's like heavy metal is becoming more of like one of those genres that, okay, he listens to heavy metal, that's okay, you know? He likes what he likes stuff. Especially in Norway, it's starting to look like that, definitely.
I think there's always work to be done, but I think we're at a point now in society, at least in the better parts of like the country and stuff, where people are really accepting. You know, we've got a lot of like the gender stuff that's coming through, and people are starting to be really accepting of that. And it's like, I think we're quite a progressive society. I mean, we're doing quite well, I think, and so I think people are not so quick to judge anymore and give you a chance, you know, like
yeah, I mean, definitely sort of like beginning of secondary school for me was like the emo boom.
Yes.
So I was just like quite a touchy subject, but like back then it was like the self-harm thing was huge.
It was,
like
yeah.
people saying like, oh, you emos just like cut yourselves and stuff, and it's like, and the amount that the British press actually like latched onto that as a negative, and it was in newspapers and stuff, and like a lot of the more sort of, let's say, chavvy community and people in my school, it was really quite disparaging. I was really lucky that I had enough friends and a good enough support system around me that it never really affected me, but I know people that it really affected. And just grateful that the community is so open to, especially nowadays, like talking more about mental health. We touch on it in a lot of our songs, and I think it's a lot more accepted now that people need support. They don't want, like, it doesn't help anyone when you're negative about that stuff, essentially. And everyone's got their clan, and you just got to double down and look after each other, you know? Like, it's definitely affected me in the past, but I'm here now, so don't give a fuck.
I think if it is easier, it's because of communication and what's the word? Awareness. You know, it's a word that's thrown around a lot with these charities and causes, but there is a lot of awareness, which just makes people more comfortable. If they think, oh, I'm not the only one talking about this, or I'm not going to get laughed at for talking about this. This is, you know, so many people we know in bands are involved with this now, and so thanks to awareness over the last, goodness knows how many years it's been, but certainly since we were all younger, it does feel like a safer space, even to talk, let alone just to exist. So I think awareness is the key thing, and we're happy to see it and support it as it goes.
The biggest change we've found when comparing 2024 to 2007 when Sophie was attacked is the meteoric rise of social media. Social media is an open world platform where people can find their own people, they can find their families, those with shared interests. But at the same time, it's also an open world where you can be targeted and attacked by strangers simply because you want to express yourself and celebrate your differences. Is this where the focus needs to go in the future? To help make the internet more of a safe space for those of us in the alternative community?
I think it's a weird one, isn't it? Because I think social media and the internet makes such a difference these days compared to when we were growing up. Because you're just open to everyone.
I think you're right, and everybody has that desire to sort of express their opinion one way or another. They feel like it's necessary to comment on absolutely everything, and you know, my mom always said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I love that expression because it's so bloody true. It is so true. And personally, I just don't care enough to comment on what people are doing.
Exactly. But I don't understand that. I don't have hardly enough time to check my emails, let alone get on there and comment on what other people are dressed like or what kind of drumming this guy does. Or You know.
With social media, now it's easier to connect with people who are similar, but then it's also easier to get kind of in a situation where you feel very much alone and no one supporting you. So I think it's important to kind of reach out to the outlets that are available and kind of finding people who surround yourself with people who bring you up, you know. And when people who are around you are negative or try push you down, that's a sign to stay away from them, you know.
Absolutely.
And try get out of that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a common thing we've heard this weekend is like, it doesn't seem to be so much of an issue in person as it was.
Yeah.
But online, it's just a clusterfuck.
Agreed.
It's where a lot.
It's a lot of kind of anonymous people who are scared in themselves, you know.
Absolutely. Keyboard warriors, I believe the term is. Yes.
It's really hard. I feel bad for the next generation because of the social media thing.
Yes.
Which is just sort of moving that bullying and that horrible sort of freezing people out and all that. Just moved it into digital territory.
Yeah, especially right because you're saying like it's a lot more accepted in Norway, but if these kids are going online, there's people who aren't from Norway online. So you're still going to get open to that abuse. Yeah,
but it's exactly. It's the same. I'm jokingly exaggerating, but for young people, you know, for a bit older people like us, you know, we know where we are and all that. And I think metal and it's good that it's being remembered. that you guys are still working with that.
Yeah.
Because it can still happen, all the time. There's this sadistical side to the human nature that needs to be influenced, needs to be, tell people and make them remember that it's very easy to get off trail there, because it causes people to be excited, feel important. These bullies and say this, they're being sort of, they have a problem in their own life, obviously. You don't become a bully or a fucking fascist just because you're having such a good time. There's something wrong to begin with, right?
Yes.
And that needs to be confronted.
I think mostly because of the internet, because people can find like their communities online as well. So you can kind of self-select the people you hang around with. So like back in the day before the internet, you would have been forced to kind of hang around with like people who were probably less welcoming, more bigoted, more like. But nowadays you can kind of self-select and avoid that more with the internet. So I do think it is better. Obviously, it's not completely, the problem's not totally solved, but it's more solved than it was when, like, obviously the Sophie Lancaster incident happened, and back in the day when we were all growing up, it was a much, in my opinion anyway, it was a bigger problem then. Although I can't speak for like what it's like to be in school these days.
No.
I've got absolutely no idea, but like I can imagine like there's still elements of that kind of thing going on these days.
I think it's more of like, if you're still in school, obviously you still have like that sort of support online as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's I can't really say for that kind of generation at the moment. Obviously, when we were growing up, we had just like MSN and LimeWire.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like if you did something wrong, you knew about it.
One of the things we've seen with the riots this last week is that when you've got people who are literally taking an extreme stance and just throwing out sound bites, there is no communication, there's no discussion of any issues, of any problems. There's just this kind of hatred and intolerance on both sides, and that it's exactly that sort of led to the fear and hatred that resulted in the death of Sophie, and it's awful. And I don't think, unfortunately, social media has particularly helped with that.
The internet is brutal, and I think that,
as I say, it's just as bad because of the internet.
but also it is, I don't know, it's like almost like a facade of everybody being more accepted, but I also feel like we're more divided because of that as well, and everybody kind of forms into their own little niche groups. But it's just different. I probably wouldn't say it was better or worse. I think the internet has just got a massive part to play in it still being very, very brutal.
Yeah, you can go, like in the 90s and the early 2000s, you can go home and shut your door. But now
you take it home, you're on your phone, it's in your hand, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Get away from it.
I think it is all still there. It's just on a different platform.
Yeah.
It's just not happening in the streets anymore.
Yeah. I think it probably still is to some degree, but it's more. People say hide behind the screen, isn't it? You can say what you want. It's terrible.
Absolutely. Keyboard warriors, I believe the phrase is. Yes. Absolutely.
But then they'll say some shitty comment, put their phone down, not realising it'll stay with the person they've said it for like X amount of time. But
it's better than it was. I think social media is obviously blown up. You see TikTok and there's a lot of trends where metal music's coming through, like Sleep Token and Bad Omens have done really, really well, and I think it's ushered in people who never liked metal and heavy metal before coming in. And if you look back in school, everyone had that Linkin Park album with Jay-Z.
Oh god.
That was how we met in the middle of the alternatives and the normal folk. But it's a challenge. There's always going to be one bad egg amongst a lot of good people.
I think social media made people more aware of the communities as well. Because 2007, it's not really a thing. I mean, you'd had early Facebook, but these people are still around. It's just now with social media, it's instant. Everyone's more aware of it.
I think it would probably be worse, right? Because they've got social media.
Yes.
And social media's like, I didn't have that when I was younger. I just had like chavs in town. Or I think we called them MSN Messenger. Yeah. Big up AOL. But like we had like people in town like screaming "Grubo" out of a car window and stuff.
Yeah.
Like now, you can get individually victimized, which is not fucking cool at all.
No.
And they should definitely fuck off with that.
Also, I think it's like it does work sort of the other way as well, because
if you see someone that's wearing
You
like
control them online.
yeah, you can get them back. Take a no, I'm not gonna say that. Yeah, but like it works on the other side of that. So like if you're wearing a Guns N' Roses t-shirt, a lot of times someone will be like, oh, cool, Guns N' Roses, like, and then you can like it's like a conversation starter. So I think it kind of like being a bit individual and like showing off what you kind of like stand for, what you like and stuff like that. It does work in your favour as well. So there is a positive to it. But I think like the nastiness has got to stop.
No.
I mean, with the rise of social media, although there is an awful lot of negative connotations, there's also a lot of positives. It's so much easier to like reach out to more like-minded people and like get a support system like that, and you know, it is a lot more convenient now, definitely.
Social media has become a problem.
Yes.
So I think the pressure on kids is still there. People growing up, but I think on a different side of things, I think social media's brought a whole another challenge. So yes, I still think that there's problems. Yes, we've got more acceptance because we've got than 15 years ago, the kids have got much more diversity than they ever have had. But I still think we've got a problem with things like social media, and that does need to be addressed. How we tackle it is another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think not only is there vitriol and spite out on the internet, but the fact that there's a world of misinformation as well. Yeah. And that's the thing, and that's what breeds that lack of knowledge and that lack of appreciation of subcultures. You know, and that's a massive, rabbit hole we could go down, isn't it? Really, but. It's,
I know you ain't got the time, either.
No, I don't think I've got the inclination either.
It's a whole minefield, that one. Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
I think the biggest question that's come out of this weekend is simply why?
It makes me wonder, like, where are we going to stop caring for what other people are doing and thinking and saying and invading their spaces and thinking that you have any kind of allowance or any kind of rights to interfere with each own personal choice or personal way of being, especially, you know what I mean, like, not even go towards these fucking sick minds that do this kind of fucking shits to people. This is fucking disgusting, but where are we going to stop, interfering with people's sexuality, with people's choices of music, with what they want to be, what they want to look, how they want to dress? Like, who gives a fuck? It's not interfering in your life, it's not doing anything against you. You know what I mean? Like, what's the problem? Like, so let's fucking drop down these borders down and, like, accept people for who they fucking are. We are beautiful, we are humans, we are beautiful. We have so much in us, diversity, different things, So why the fuck we need to be fighting about difference that doesn't even care about you, doesn't even concern other people?
A massive thank you to everyone who took the time out of their very busy schedules to speak to us over the course of the weekend, sharing your stories, your beliefs, and your passions all about the alternative community and your part in it. We are all one giant family, and we for one are so grateful to get to share these moments and create these memories with you on a grand stage such as Bloodstock. The Sophie Lancaster Foundation and the work they are doing is so important in making us feel safe. Is it truly getting better? Is it getting easier to be alternative? If you don't think so, what can we do? And what can we do to change and make the world a more tolerant and safer place? Mainly for the younger people growing up, so they don't have to experience what we did. Keep flying that flag and head on over to www.sophielancasterfoundation.com and see what you can do to help.
Anything you experienced at all?
Yes, and I think it's one of the things that I most love, like to create this sensation and then it's like a provoke, I love this, and when they look at me and they felt uncomfortable, and then I will look at them like, she looks at me more, I love this because the problem is on them, not on me, and they need to solve that, and I'm trying to help them. Like, where's your problem, man?
Myself as a musician, other folks as music fans, we dedicate ourselves to this music, and maybe we get some tattoos along the way, or maybe we dress a little differently than other people do at the office. But in the end, I think the great thing about we'll call them rock and roll fans, because it's too difficult to say, but people who come to see shows and concerts, they're very passionate about this lifestyle, and it's
They always pick on the weirdest thing.
It's like I never understood it.
Yeah. Probably because they couldn't think of anything else. They were just like,
nice shoes.
Where'd you get it from? The shoe store.
Shoe shop. Nobody ever should be judged purely based on their appearance, ever. No. And that means everybody. Absolutely. Doesn't mean just whoever you like. It means everyone. Treat everyone with kindness until they call you an arsehole.
The heavy metal community is one of the nicest, friendliest communities in the world, and it's nice to see that everybody comes together, and a festival like this that does something for such an important cause, and it's heavy metal forever, to be honest, and rest in peace, Sophie.
Absolutely.